Thanks for joining me. In this first video in the spell casting series, I'm going to present to you the freezer spell. Now, this is a great spell for anyone that wants to block somebody from their life. The type of situations that you may desire to block someone may include anything from somebody that's harassing you, like an ex-boyfriend. Maybe it's someone that's harassing one of your kids, like someone that they dated and you want to try and block them. Maybe it's a boss from another department, not your own direct boss, because you can't banish them or block them because you still need to work with them. But maybe there's some other colleague from a different department that could be interfering with you. You may want to block them. Maybe it's a government department or a government body, such as the IRS. Maybe you want to try and block them from taking some level of action. Now, I will say you can't not pay your taxes. You can't stop the IRS from connecting with you forever. What you're doing is blocking them for a period of time so you can get your affairs in order. And it just gives you a little bit more time. I will say that. The other one I'll say, because I know I'll get these questions, is that, for example, if your ex-husband, you want to block him from having access to the children or vice versa, you can't do that because the children also have a cord, and while you may block that individual, you can't block him from the children. They will have their own specific cord to their dad. So that's not the right spell to do in that situation. Someone that's gossiping about you or harassing you, this is a good spell for them. So remember, the key of this is that you're freezing them, you're stopping them from the destructive behavior that they're causing you. And also, this is not a hex or a curse. So for those of you who are worrying about baneful magic, this is not considered baneful magic. In one regard, you could consider this protection because you're wanting to stop, not send back that energy, but you want to stop that negativity, that negative action from coming your way, from hitting you. So what do you need for this type of spell? We'll need a container of some type. So these are really good little containers. They're small because you'll be storing these in a freezer. And I'm assuming that you have other stuff in your freezer. So you don't want gigantic containers filled up with witchy items. Something like this is a good size. Or more typically, people will use sandwich bags. Once again, this is quite a large bag to fill with water and leave in your freezer. So maybe a bag like of this size would be better for you. I have in previous years explained that you can do this with an ice cube tray. So on the website, we have that, I think it's written down, and I'll have a link to that on our website for you under this video. But today I'm going to show you how to do it with the containers I've just shown you there. Now, of course, you're going to need some level of ink to write on petition paper. And so you can use a magical Sharpie. No, it's not magical. It's just a black marker. It doesn't have to be black, just something that you can write with. Actually, in fact, you could write with a pen, okay? Or if you use magical inks, you could use a dove's blood ink or a bat's blood ink or dragon's blood ink. I think the key to your magical ink is putting a drop of your own blood in that ink to really personalize that ink and have that magical connection, but it's not necessary. Of course, paper. Now, this is parchment paper that I've ripped into smaller squares, but yours doesn't need to be like that. And water. Doesn't need to be special water. You don't need to have other oils or cursing powders or anything like that, because you're not cursing the individual. You don't want destruction of the paper. For example, in other types of spells where you're wanting to block the target, you might put urine or vinegar in the jar. You're not doing anything like that. It's plain old water, and the goal is to freeze it so you're freezing the actions of the other person. So let's get started. Now, this step isn't necessary, but to get in the witchy mood or maybe to create a magical space, you may wish to burn some incense just to set the tone, I suppose. And you may feel comfortable to have a white candle and just cleanse your area. Or you may wish to make a circle and just cleanse the area with a white candle. And you might say something like, I absorb any negative energies or entities with this candle that could affect the positive outcome of my spell, so be it. Something like that, make it your own. So the first thing to do is write the petition on the paper and make it very, very short, sharp, and sweet. So on the paper, with your marker, you're going to write down that you're going to bind that person. So I bind the person's name and then what you're binding them from doing. So for example, I bind, I'll make it Tom Smith from stalking me. So be it. And then you could write, if you like, it is done, it shall be done, whatever power word you like to use to end a spell. That's really how simple it is. You hold it then in your hand and you think about what this means to you, what actions this person is doing to you in your life that's really hurting you and affecting you so much that you're spending time to bind this person. So hold the paper in your hand and chant something like, I freeze Tom Smith, I bind Tom Smith from causing me harm. I freeze Tom Smith, I bind Tom Smith from causing me harm. I freeze Tom Smith, I bind Tom Smith from causing me harm. So be it, so it is done. As you're doing this, you're really now thinking about the intention as having a clear train of thought between what you want to happen and the consequence has to be really tight. Do you really want this person out of your life? Do you need for them to take some other action? If you need for them to take some other action, like be nice to you or leave, then this isn't the spell. You have to be very clear here that you want this person out of your life. You want to block them. You never want anything to do with them again. Just really focus on that. Really put that intention out there that you want this person blocked and blocked for good. And when you're ready, what you'll do is that you'll fold it, quite simply fold it. Fold it again. And then in a container, I like these containers. Actually, I like them because they stack neatly on each other. And I do a lot of this type of work, so I want them to stack neatly in the freezer. Quite simply, all you need to do is pour water on this. And as you're pouring the water, you're thinking about the effect of having this person permanently frozen from your life. So it is done. Now for this second freezer spell, we're binding an individual from threatening to take personal and private information to a government body. So once again, this is a longer petition, but you just hold that there and you say, I freeze target's name and bind target's name from causing me harm. And you just think about the action that you need that person to not take. So you're blocking them from taking your personal information to that government body. And you'll just really think about that, and you're pushing your energy into your request. Once again, you're not hexing or cursing that person. You're just you're protecting yourself from this individual, and you're stopping more drama to come into your life by freezing that person from taking the action. So once that is done, once again, you fold it. This is a bigger piece. Really doesn't matter with this spell. How you fold it, which way you fold it, dressing it with oils, none of that is important. You put it in the plastic bag, you cover it with water. This example, I don't have a lot of water left, but it's enough to cover the parchment paper. And then you just put both of these, this one and this one, in the freezer. Now this is obviously one I prepared earlier. It's not 100% frozen as yet, but basically you can see that the petition paper is caught in what we call a container. This is container magic, or a container spell. So that's it. Super easy, huh? Now, what are some other tips I can give you? If you had a photo of the target, it's probably best that you use that for your petition paper, right on the back or the front of the photo. Once again, it doesn't matter because you're going to be covering the entire photo with water when you put it in the container. Another question you might have is, what happens if it doesn't work? Why didn't it work? Well, firstly, if it doesn't work, like, it's not going to be instant. Blocking someone, especially in some situations, can be super tricky. So this is where you may want to perform divination, such as a tarot reading, or use a pendulum to see if spirit has a different answer for you. If it's a complex situation where that person has links to other people, that's why they need to still connect with you, the freezer spell isn't the right spell for you. The other reason it may not work is that you may not have a very clear intention or a complex intention. You're adding lots of sentences to your petition. You're making it overly complicated. Or maybe you're worried about the side effects of a spell. All of this can damage the way the energy flows towards the spell. I recommend that you recast the spell if it didn't work. If you're really sure that this spell is right for you and it didn't work, recast it. All you need to do is pull it back out of the freezer. Of course, let the old spell dry out, the paper from the old spell dry, and then just put the paper in the flames, let it disintegrate, and then do it again. Once again, just try and clear your mind. And practice makes perfect with any magic. If the spell stopped working, it could also be because you threw out the spell. You took the spell out of the freezer and then threw it out. So once the spell is defrosted, then that's it. The spell is now broken. And so the target may, in fact, connect with you again. But maybe after a year's time, for example, if it was some ex-boyfriend that was chasing you around, maybe he has a new love interest and he doesn't care for you anymore. You can release the spell. He's not going to, hopefully, keep chasing you. Or maybe you've frozen a work colleague that was interfering in your business. You don't work at that establishment anymore, or they moved on. Sure, you can throw that out of the freezer. You don't need to keep it forever. If you take it out of the freezer, the idea is that you defrost it and let the paper dry, and then I like to burn it in the flame. And then you can bury the ashes or just throw them out. If you have a special spot in your garden, you like to put spell remains, and sure, bury it in your garden in that special spot. What if you want to break the freezer spell? Well, like with any magic, once you set the intention and you cast the spell, reversal of any spell can sometimes be tricky and it's not guaranteed. But why not give it a go? Once again, you pull the bag out of the freezer, you let it defrost, you have the paper, and then as you're allowing the paper to burn within the flame, you might say something like, I release you from the binding of this freezer spell, target's name, so be it, so it is done. And then that's it. And the key is, forget about it now. Don't overthink the spells, especially spells like this. Don't try and analyze it too much. It's done, get on with your day, and that's it.